I hadn't wanted a party. That's always how it starts. Someone insists, frames it as kindness, as proof that I matter. It'll be small, they said. Just family. I agreed because refusing would have turned into another conversation about how I'm difficult, how I don't let people do things for me. So I baked the cake myself. Chocolate, simple, nothing elaborate. I brought it over like a peace offering. The house was already loud when I arrived. My sister was holding court in the kitchen, laughing too hard at her own stories. My brother hovered near the couch, phone in hand, half listening. His son, 9 years old enough to know words but not their weight, kept darting between rooms, amped up and unsupervised. There were small things I noticed and ignored. A comment about how I always do fine on my own. A joke about how I don't really need presents because I buy what I want anyway. These weren't new. They were the background hum of our family, the way resentment disguised itself as humor. When it was time for cake, everyone gathered loosely. Someone clapped. Someone told the kid to stop running. I set the cake down on the coffee table and started to say thank you. Just that, thank you for coming. That's when my nephew grabbed the cake. At first, my brain refused to process it. I thought he was trying to touch the frosting, maybe smear a finger through it. Instead, he lifted it, awkwardly, but with purpose, and slammed it onto the floor. Chocolate splattered. The plate cracked. He yelled it as if it were a punchline he'd practiced. Daddy says you don't even deserve gifts. There was a beat of silence. Then my sister laughed. Not a surprised laugh. Not an uncomfortable one. She bent forward, hand on the counter, laughing so hard she had to steady herself. Someone else snorted. Someone said, "Kids say the craziest things." I looked at my brother. He didn't look shocked. He didn't scold his son. He didn't even look embarrassed. He shrugged, faintly amused, like this was an exaggeration of something harmless he'd said earlier. In that moment, something very old and very heavy finally dropped out of my hands. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't say a word. I grabbed my coat, picked up my bag and walked out. No one followed me. No one called my name. The party continued without a pause long enough to matter. The drive home was quiet. I kept expecting anger to show up, to surge and demand something from me. It didn't. What I felt instead was clarity. A clean, almost clinical understanding of where I stood. For years, I had been the quiet solution. When my brother lost his job, I covered the utilities just for a few months. When my sister's credit took a hit, I put the internet in my name. When things stabilized, no one ever suggested moving those payments back. It just became normal. Easier this way. I told myself it was generosity. Family, temporary stretched into years. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. Not with shaking hands. Not with rage. Just with the same calm I used to pay bills every month. I logged into the utility accounts tied to their house. Electricity. Internet all in my name. All on autopay. I turned off autopay. I didn't call the companies. I didn't demand shut-offs. I didn't threaten anyone. I simply stopped paying for what wasn't mine. I slept deeply. 8:05 a.m. My phone lit up. The family group chat, usually quiet, mostly memes and logistical questions, erupted. Is anyone else having issues with the power? The internet is down. What happened? Who's in charge of the electric bill? Then the tone shifted. This isn't funny. We have work calls. The kid has school online. Fix this. I watched the messages stack up without responding. 10 minutes later, my brother called. I let it ring. Then my sister. Then my mother. When I finally replied in the group chat, it was one sentence. I stopped paying the utilities last night. The typing bubbles appeared immediately. Then accusations. You can't just do that. After everything we've done for you. This is because of a joke. A joke. That word again. I typed once more. I'm not responsible for expenses in a house where I'm openly disrespected. That was it. The rest of the morning was chaos on their end. Calls to utility companies. Confusion about account ownership. Realizing that transferring services takes time. Credit checks, deposits. The systems didn't care about family dynamics. They cared about names, signatures, payment histories. By noon, the laughter from the night before had evaporated. My brother finally texted privately. Shorter, less confident. We need to talk. I didn't answer. In the afternoon, my sister tried a different angle. Apologies wrapped in minimization. You know how kids are? You're taking this too seriously. You've always been sensitive. I stared at the screen, feeling something close to sadness, but not doubt. Sensitive had always meant quiet enough to exploit. That evening, I got one more message from my brother. He shouldn't have said that. I didn't think he'd repeat it. That was the closest thing to honesty I'd heard all day. I replied once. That's exactly the problem. It's been months now. The utilities are in their names again. More expensive. Less convenient. My nephew hasn't apologized, not really. My sister avoids the topic. My brother speaks carefully, like someone who learned too late where the edge was. The group chat is quieter. When I'm mentioned, it's cautiously. I didn't get a redo birthday. No cake. No gifts. What I got instead was something steadier. The end of a role I never agreed to play, and the beginning of a boundary that doesn't require me to raise my voice to hold it.